Welcome to the Fabulous 413. I'm Khalees Smith.
And I'm Monty Belmonte. Later in the show, the New England Repertory Orchestra starts its 2023-24 season this Friday at the Shea.
Shameless plug.
It's not shameless. The maestro is here, and it's not because I'm on the board of the Shea, which I make $0 off of. I don't own that theater, as so many people think. The town owns it.
Really? That
That's
comes
like
up
a
a bunch?
volunteer job.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
I get all that time. When you bought this theater, I'm like, no. I didn't buy this theater. But artistic director Cailin Marcel-Manson will join us to talk about the new horizons of the Nero Orchestra for this new year.
And Word Nerd Emily Brewster fills our plates with some of the culinary terms included in the 690 new words that Merriam-Webster added to its ranks last week.
But first, it's time for our ears to simultaneously go global and local.
How do we do that?
Your mic is very loud.
Yeah, I was speaking since 1966, I think.
No, 68.
This
You
is
might be
almost like
66. You're a little older.
yesterday's conversation.
Oh, yeah.
I know that
More acid,
I
more
listened
acid.
to this show almost every single time since the very beginning, and yesterday was one of the ones I really wanted to listen to, and I wasn't able to because
you missed-
so frustrated.
You miss Carly Munoz?
Yeah,
must have missed that as well.
I have his book, and I'm reading it, and I'm going to go see him on the weekend.
Yeah,
and
that was fun.
The psychedelic band he was in, Space, is awesome and crazy, and I love the period of the Beach Boys that he was in.
Yeah.
I mean, I named my show Feel Flows. When I was on MUA after that period of the early.
Oh, man, that's so cool. Captain Jack messaged me later that night and was like, I knew it about Mike Love. I mentioned a chef.
I'll find out when I listen to the podcast.
Oh, yeah.
Wherever you get your podcasts.
When you think about DJs in the Valley, one of the names that you might think of is DJ Bongo Head. One of the names you might think of is DJ Studebaker Hawk. And one of the names you might think of is DJ Bex Taylor from right here at NEPM, who I listen to driving home from my Kung Fu class weekly. And we're going to talk about local music and local record labels with these three fine DJs right now. DJ Bongo Head is the moniker of Pablo Iglesias. DJ Studebaker Hawk is the moniker of Justin Cohen. And DJ Bex Taylor, we're not going to reveal your real name. But you're also...
Our NEPM partner in crime.
Yes, part of the brain trust behind Peace and Rhythm Records. Tell us, Bongo Head Pablo, about the birth of Peace and Rhythm Records.
It was pretty painful. But
Hours and
luckily, the
hours of labor.
endorphins or whatever kick in.
Oh,
and
yeah, nice.
10
Let's
years
dig
later,
deep.
almost, I'm like, it wasn't that painful. It was an idea hatched by Andahar and myself to try and put out some music by some of the artists that we already admired and were playing on the radio. And if not them, then at least someone else in that realm of groove-oriented global sounds. We were banding around names, and I said, let's just use Peace and Rhythm, which was the name of Andahar's show on WMUA, named after the Idris Muhammad album. Because peace is great, and rhythm is
Also
even
great.
greater.
Yeah.
And if the two go together, a baby gets made.
And a record label is born. Peace and Rhythm.
I want to shout out to one of our founders, Andahar, who, basically all of these partners I met through DJing. He is still an amazing detective who can find all kinds of new music. At least half of the 40 some odd releases we've done have been music that he's discovered. And one more shout out is to another partner of ours, Carlos Rec, who does a lot of visuals for us.
Rec is part of the Peace and Rhythm DJ crew. We also play all around individually and together.
Yeah, I was about to ask you to talk a little bit about your summer parties. But
Yes, which is Carlos.
Yeah.
That's him.
Yeah. Rec is the mover and shaker who puts on the parties at 33 Outside at the Center for the Arts in Northampton.
Yeah, and he, again, just like all of us, he just wants to spread the good news, the good feeling, and the good music.
And Bex, tell us about your relationship. I mean, people hear you here on
Yeah.
NPM all the time. Tell us about your relationship to Peace and Rhythm Records.
Well, I'm also a fill-in host for Jazz Safari.
Yes.
So I have a love for Latin music as well, and I tapped them and said, could I come on board? I'm pretty much more of a hype person. I'm the new kid on the block here,
Yeah.
but I
I'm
feel
wearing a T-shirt that you helped make.
Yeah. But I feel like I I was their biggest cheerleader and still am. I was already pre-buying all the stuff.
Yeah.
So,
Now she doesn't have to pay for that.
right.
There you go.
Actually,
It's a
she
way to get
does.
free
I
records.
pay differently.
That was a smart
Right.
life move.
Like, I won't say that I stayed on our previous station for the free concert tickets, but there was definitely a large portion of the work perks. A lot of the stuff on your label is like classic genres done in non-classic ways, I think. What's appealing about seeing the outer fringes of what these genres can do?
I think it's fresh to get a new look at those genres and see what's going on today. I work also in a lot of reissues and, digging through the past. I mean, most of my work, actually, that's not peace and rhythm, is with old music.
You're an expert in boogaloo music. This is
Well,
DJ Bongo
it's
Head.
just one area. Also, the graphics, the presentation, the visual presentation of music, because I'm a graphic designer too. To work with contemporary artists where there's no back history except for what's happening now is a thrilling thing to do, and I guess that's really was our mission. I mean, we could reissue some old thing in some time in the future, but and we've reissued contemporary music that never got a vinyl version. But it really exciting to have fresh takes on some genres that we all know of salsa or Afrobeat or world jazz or what have you. We like to work with local artists as well as certainly in the last few years, we've worked with some international artists as well. Yeah, I think it's just more appealing to work with what's going on now.
We're speaking with the three of the DJs behind Peace and Rhythm Records. DJ Bongo Head, a.k.a. Pablo Iglesias, DJ Studebaker Hawk, Justin Cohen, and DJ Bex Taylor, who you know from NEPM right here. Studebaker Hawk, you have a bunch of vinyl in front of you that you were touting when you were so excited about talking about reissuing some maybe more contemporary stuff or older stuff on vinyl records. So what do you got in front of you that people might be interested in hearing about?
Yeah, only a few of the things we have reissued. We mostly work with contemporary artists who are putting out new music, but I happen to, because we're talking about reissuing a local thing that had not come out on vinyl, this, of course, the Western Mass's own world-class salsero, Jesus Pagan.
It's awesome when you get a phone call from Jesus Pagan on your voicemail because it reads Pagan Jesus.
Yep.
My wife makes this joke daily.
It's a delight.
But thankfully, he is a really serious artist. He writes his own music as well as sings it and arranges it. A number of years ago, I think 2008, he asked me to design his first solo album that was on CD. And so then when, all these years later, he asked if we would want to reissue it, the question was how to make it bigger, the artwork, but not blurry.
Yeah.
So I had to go back to the original. Everything was local. Like the record collection in the background was Michael Ayler's record collection. And he runs a label. He's no longer in the area, but and then the photographer is a local photographer, Andrew Gretto, that I worked with at Family Fun, a local business that's no longer with us, magazine. And so I had to go back to the original files and enlarge and redo everything. So it was kind of fun. And that's actually...
And it looks gorgeous. I mean, like, it's sitting right in front of us. You'll see pictures on our social media and all that stuff.
Yeah, the visuals are a big part. I mean, obviously, the music and the message are very important, but the visuals are just as important for us.
Talk about the resurgence of vinyl. A new record shop opened on Avenue A in the town where I live. My children, who are teenagers, spend virtually all of their expendable income on vinyl.
That's your fault. That's your fault.
I'm proud of it. And yet, there's not that many places that make vinyl records. And when Taylor Swift decides she's going to reissue one of her albums, the whole world has to wait. So tell us how that works for a small record label based in Western Mass like Peace and Rhythm.
Sure. Well, I actually sell vinyl records for a living, as well as run the Northampton Record Fair.
Nice.
Next
Yeah.
year.
Woo.
Yay!
Yeah, there was definitely a extended period where plants were closing down for many years. And I know, I live part of the year in Mexico, and there are no record plants left in Mexico. The last one moved to the U.S., actually. The equipment was bought and brought up to the U.S. The interesting thing is there actually have been quite a few new pressing plants that have been opening over the last 5-ish years in the U.S. So now, soon we will have to wait less time for the new Taylor Swift, thankfully. A lot of our records have been produced actually in Burlington, Vermont, at the Burlington Record Plant. We are major cheerleaders for.
Yeah, we've teamed up with them even to release something like the Jesus Pagan and other ones where they get a portion of the records too, and so it's kind of like a further partnership, not just working with them to press it, but to put it out. But what about the resurgence of vinyl? How do you guys explain that one? I'm not really sure, other than trends.
I feel like I was there at the death of vinyl because I worked in record stores locally.
Yeah.
2000, I feel like, is sort of when the dip really happened. But I think also I've had CDs go bad, and vinyl, you can pick up records that are 100 years old and you can still play them.
Yeah.
Unless they're scratched.
Right.
Right.
But you can still play them.
You can still
play them. Whereas I have CDs that have deteriorated. So I am so here for the vinyl resurgence.
I guess part of it, too, was all the downloading. If people could get digital music for free, why would they waste all their money on a record or even a CD?
My children buy multiple copies of the exact same record because you were showing us, Bongo Head, earlier, that like the beauty of the vinyl itself is a piece of art. And then some of these artists release multiple versions of the way the vinyl itself looks. And so there's something artifactual about it in an era and an age where everything is so temporal and all your friends are digital ones and zeros on a laptop screen. To have big artwork blown up in front of you, to have a piece of vinyl that looks like a piece of artwork,
But also,
it's magic.
I will also say, as a consumer and somebody who's a DJ on radio, a lot of times you get a download code. So you didn't have to make that choice.
Yeah,
and I used to have to make that choice
Exactly.
of if I had a record and I was working at the commercial radio station, we did not have a record player.
Do we have a turntable here at NEPM?
We do.
We do.
Yep.
There's one in the closet that has been on
We
the
have
floor.
one hooked up.
You have one hooked up?
If you guys,
If
if you guys think I'm going to give you any free records,
There's literally like two, like near the supply closet.
I keep thinking about taking one of those home.
Not to get like even more niche with vinyl, but I noticed also that you have 7 inches. In a world where I am pro EP, I feel like it's an underrated form of albums. Like, talk about like putting things out on 7 inches. Do you feel that people are as excited about something smaller, a smaller form, as they are about the full-length albums?
People have to lug records to gigs. Love singles.
Yes.
Yeah, especially playing internationally. Like,
Right.
I'll be playing in Mexico next month, and I am bringing 7 inches.
Yeah.
For me, it's the easiest thing to DJ with. And it's really only within probably the last 5 years that I really went headfirst into 7 inches, and I ended up starting a subscription service for 45s from independent labels, mostly to support independent labels and to get fun records out to people that might fly under the radar.
Are we going to say what it's called?
Oh, sure. It's called The Drop.
And I am a subscriber to The Drop.
Oh, nice.
Nice.
So how does it work?
You give him money.
Yeah.
And he curates and sends 2 45s or 7 inches. They could be 33 and a third.
Right.
Of his choice. And the best thing also is if you already have it, you can go to his online store on Discogs and switch something out.
That's so great.
And it's great because he is more plugged in, and knows a lot of people from all around the world and can really curate some great stuff. I've been a subscriber since the get-go. I've not faded.
More with DJ Bongo Head, Studebaker Hawk, and NEPM's own Bex Taylor as we get into the sounds, getting peace and rhythm excited these days.
Later in the show, we'll discover the new culinary terms that made their way into the dictionary last week and hear about the new season of Nero, the new England Repertory Orchestra, from its artistic director, Cailin Marcel-Manson.
You're listening to the Fabulous 413 on 88.5 NEPM.
one of the other great things about working with living musicians is the live music aspect. And we've even put out something that there was no band for. It was literally a one-man band thing stuck in a computer for many years. And we brought it to light, and then there was an opportunity for that person to perform that music, so they had to get a band together.
Yeah.
And then the band had so much fun playing together that they created a new band out of that because they were making new music
That's
as
so
well
great.
as playing the music from the record.
Who is it that we're talking about?
We are talking about Campos and Loco Beach.
Nice.
So cool.
And that all happened at the Green River Fest.
Yeah,
Right
it was
here
Green
in
River
the
Fest.
413.
So they got together. They got a band together so they could play Green River Festival in Green.
To play the music of Campos, but then after that, they decided to call themselves Loco Beach because they were making up their own music too.
Oh, wow. That's so great.
And then we're like, well, let's put out that record.
Ring the alarm, call the troops, for we haven't even been introduced.
We're celebrating music from around the world and from our backyard with our backyard favorite, well, I don't want to call it favorite, one of our favorite backyard record labels, Peace and Rhythm.
There's lots of great record labels out there.
DJ Studebaker Hawk and DJ Bongohead and NEPM's very own Bex Taylor.
What's currently on your label that you're most excited about?
That's coming soon, or arrived?
You know what? Let's give it two answers. What's coming out that you're super excited about, and what's already there that you wish more people would discover?
DJ Studebaker Hawk.
Sure, the already there, I'm going to immediately jump back to Compos. The second Compos album, The Eighth Door, I'm just super in love with. This was something it took us a bit to get it out, somewhat because
Understatement.
somewhat because of course, the delays in record pressing that happened over the pandemic.
Thanks, Taylor.
And Adele.
And COVID.
Oh, that thing.
Yeah, whatever. I don't know.
So 3 years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it literally probably took more than that because the whole thing is that these songs were being created sort of one at a time, and I said, let's make another album.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, well then I gotta make some more music.
Encouraging creativity can take time.
Yeah, and also like linking in with Khalees's great question earlier about reinventing old genres in a modern sense. That's completely what I feel like Compos is. What Joshua Camp, who is Compos, has done, I've never heard anyone else really have that sound. I don't think Joshua would describe it as such, but to me, it's like Colombian cumbia, a classic style with many genres, meets 90s synth, even some 80s synth, and kind of video game music.
Nice.
At least on like a couple of the songs. There's
some disco
cosmic
beats
sounds.
in there.
Yeah.
With everything that's been going on in bringing global music to Western Massachusetts, with the Music Colliders and Barbess in the Woods, and people from New York and all over the world have really benefited from interchanging, with the people from Western Massachusetts. And this is just one of the people behind these bands are just some of the people who have benefited by the opening up of that scene here over the last 5 to 8 years or so. What I'm excited about what's coming, because we are entering into the spooky season.
And this is DJ Bongohead from Peace and Rhythm.
Of Octubre, as we say. In Espanol, several musicians that we know from Austin, Texas, were fooling around with cumbia and electronics and trying experiments in the studio. They had never actually played together, but one of them had produced the other one's record previously. I'm talking about El Big Toe and El Guambito, Victor Andres Cruz and Beto Martinez. And they come from similar worlds, but were in different bands. So they collaborated. They made 4 songs. One of them was a spooky sounding cumbia. And I thought, I've been DJing either Halloween or Dia de los Muertos gigs for my whole DJ life, really.
Yeah.
And I always try to find scary songs that you could dance to.
Nice.
And, some people call them novelty. I call them, important DJ tools.
Favorite musical time of year.
So we were talking about formats of 7-inch versus 12-inch records. I thought, how cool to have a really lightweight thing that you could pull out every October, November, and just have it with you always in your bag for those times. And it's scary, but it's fun and it's danceable.
Love it.
And so when I heard that, I thought, okay, I'm going to mark that one down. But then a year goes by and 2 other songs from the 4 that they did came out on our friends from Chicago's label, Sonorama Discos. And I was like, oh, wait a minute. But I realized that they didn't put out the one that I really wanted to put out. So I was like, same. So then I talked to the band and they were like, we don't know what's going to happen with those. I said, well, I want to put them out. So I scrambled this summer. I scrambled as fast as I could to get this thing out. And now it's going to be ready. Yay. And this Friday is Bandcamp Friday.
It is.
October 6th.
Yeah. So we've got the this is the 7-inch right here. We're all excited about it.
Give us the name of the song and the artist one more time.
Sabroso y es spooky. That's the name of the song, which means tasty and spooky.
Yeah.
And it's the 2 musicians, El Big Toe, which is kind of a joke on Beto Martinez, and El Guambito, which is the nom de guerre of Victor Andres Cruz.
Nice.
Very spooky.
Yeah.
But yeah, so this one's spooky.
Bex Taylor, who
Yes.
is new to the Peace and Rhythm family here. Tell us what kind of excited you to want to be part of this label, and what you're excited that's coming out from the label you're now associated with.
I'm excited about the Bioritmo that we're teaming up with. I have been playing stuff on Jazz Safari, so the Cumbia Muffin, Jesus Pagan, I love. Quita Penas, I played that a lot. Spam All Stars, Macabeo. So, what was your question again?
Yeah,
Monty? I just went down the
nailed
path.
it. You nailed it.
She was a fan, basically.
You were a fan,
Right.
and now you're now
Yeah.
you're part
And
of
now
the Brain Trust.
And because it is just really interesting music, the stuff is just high quality. I just wanted to make sure that we're still putting that stuff out because it's financially, it's not like $10.
It's an expensive hobby.
Right.
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 It's a labor of love.
Yeah.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, a lot of these records, they might not come out if we don't do it. And that's really where we're doing this. I mean, because we don't make any money. This is not our job. This is our labor of love. Peace and Rhythm is not our job. This is just us trying to help the artists put out great music. And a lot of these artists probably would not even exist, but certainly would not necessarily come out in vinyl. They might just come out on like the band's Bandcamp or something if we didn't help out.
It's the team behind Peace and Rhythm Records, based here in Western Mass, bringing music from all over the globe to Western Mass live and in person, creating bands out ex nihilo from their crazy, wonderful musical ideas, and then putting it all on vinyl and on Bandcamp. It is Bandcamp Friday. This Friday, we've been speaking with Pablo Iglesias, better known perhaps to the world as DJ Bongo Head, Justin Cohen, DJ Studebaker Hawk, and our very own Bex Taylor from NEPM. Thank you all so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for having us.
Yeah. The Peace and Rhythm folks have a weekly dance party that they DJ at Plan B Burgers in Springfield, anchored by Studebaker Hawk and DJ Rex. So if you want to go get your move on and ask for a couple of recommendations in person, you know where to go.
And we promised we'd show a little bit of love to Ido Moore of Secret Planet for his contributions to their collective as well. And speaking of, the Peace and Rhythm folks will be spinning just before the show Secret Planet is putting on this Friday with La Perla in East Hampton.
And La Perla will join us for live music Friday, too. Everything is connected.
It's weird, man.
Up next, new food words that found their way into the dictionary with resident wordster and senior editor at Merriam-Webster, Emily Brewster.
You're listening to the Fabulous 413 on 88.5 NEPM. Emily Brewster, resident wordster from Merriam-Webster, our dictionary in Springfield. Last week, we were able to, on the day of the announcement, talk about some of the 690 new words Merriam-Webster has added to the dictionary this year. But today, we're going to talk about the new words in the dictionary that were added that are food words. So what are some of those words that you're finding fun, Emily Brewster?
Oh, a smash burger. The burger thing is always a thing. Do you know smash burgers? Do you make smash burgers?
I
Do you
knew
eat
smash
them?
burgers before that. And yeah, I do eat them because they're really, really simple and wonderful to make. If you like burgers that are like juicy and have a little bit of crust to them, it takes all of like a minute and a half to do it. And it's wonderful.
Emily Brewster, what does Merriam-Webster define a smash burger as?
It's a somewhat complex definition. The first is a hamburger patty that is pressed thin onto a heated pan or griddle at the start of cooking. Also, a patty, as of beans or ground turkey, prepared similarly. And then sense two is a sandwich featuring one or more such patties.
I do agree that hamburgers are sandwiches, although the hot dog is a sandwich thing has been well litigated by our friend Judge John Hodgman. We won't go into that. I will shamelessly...
No, we will not.
I will shamelessly plug that in my neighborhood, very regularly, at Brick and Feather Brewery, there is Patch Burgers, which has no association with our neighborhood, which is also called the Patch, but they're Patch Smash Burgers. So they make smash burgers at Brick and Feather practically every weekend, and they're really fun and delicious.
If you go by the cube rules of sandwiches, hot dogs are technically tacos.
Okay.
Yes, they are.
Now we've opened up a whole new can
Yeah, but
of
we're not getting
beans
into that, right? We're talking about a burger
that
here.
can be smashed into a smash burger. Beans.
Yes.
I will say I have never had a smash burger.
Oh, really?
Come to Brick and Feather in the neighborhood.
No. Go find the video that Kenji Lopez does on it because literally it takes a minute and a half. Like you just season your beef, you need it, or your patty, you need it to be a certain weight, and then you need your pan to be super hot. You throw your patty in, smash it real flat, like leave it for 30 seconds, flip it over, leave it for another 30 seconds, and you're done.
Yeah, with a paddle. You're not pushing it with your hands.
Yeah, no.
Yeah.
You just need like a good metal spatula.
Yeah.
There's just one place to go for all your spatula needs. Spatula City! Spatula City!
Elise, you sound kind of chefy.
Oh,
Nice segue.
That brings us to another new
You.
word. Chefy. What is chefy, Emily Brewster?
Characteristic of or befitting a professional chef, as in showiness, complexity, or exoticness.
Exoticness. What kind of chefs are we talking about here?
Well, I mean, the word
chefs at
chefy is
Club
applied
Castaway?
when there's cooking beyond the regular, what is the norm skill set.
I believe it's called a skillet.
No. No, sir.
Well, this word, chefy, and stage and stagiaire, also two new terms to the Merriam-Webster.com dictionary, all have entered the dictionary because they have all entered the public consciousness through especially cooking shows and like those competitive cooking show kinds of things and shows about restaurants and about food.
Yeah, I was 100% sure that all of these came in because of the bear.
Okay, chef.
Yes, chef.
Yes, chef.
Told her earlier.
Yes, chef.
Yes, chef.
Yes, chef.
Great.
But I forget that there are actual competitive cooking shows that people quite enjoy.
And other like food things that involve the process of becoming a chef where they use these terms too.
Yeah. Tell us
Yeah.
what stage and stagiaire
Like
mean.
Food Wars, in case anybody's interested in the anime.
Is that a good one?
It is. Well, yes, but also like don't let your kids watch. It's not for children.
Okay.
The same can be said of most restaurant kitchens.
Yeah,
Fair
don't-
enough.
Don't let your children watch The Bear either unless they're my children, and then yes, do.
Say yes, chef. I'm so tough.
Yes, chef, I'm so tough.
Yes, chef. I'm so tough.
Yes, chef, I'm so tough.
You are not tough. You are bull.
And then give them a job in a restaurant in your town, right around the corner from where they're making smash burgers. What does stage and stagiaire mean, Emily Brewster, resident wordster from Merriam-Webster?
A stagiaire, and this is spelled Stagiaire, is a usually unpaid intern working in a professional kitchen as part of their training to become a chef. A cook who is doing a stage. And a stage is a usually unpaid internship in a professional kitchen that is part of a chef's training, or a person who holds such a position. So these are both terms that people in the culinary arts have known for a long, professional culinary arts have been familiar with, but now they are becoming part of the broader lexicon.
It's crazy that unpaid internships like that are still legal, but okay, I guess it's important to get a lot of exposure to how to do some fancy stuff in the kitchen.
Yeah, what usually ends up happening is that you'll get a stipend from whatever school you're with that has gotten you the internship to try and tide you over for the however long your internship is, often about like 3 months.
That's very good to hear. I appreciate that, Khalees.
What are some of the other food words that were recently added to Merriam-Webster's dictionary, Emily Brewster, from Greenfield, Massachusetts, from our dictionary in Springfield?
Well, here's another one that I have no personal experience with. Have either of you ever tried emping, E-M-P-I-N-G?
I have not.
It's a slightly bitter cracker or chip that is popular in Indonesia. It's made from dried flattened seed of a melinjo tree.
Ooh, emping.
Yeah.
It's the name of a cracker that sounds like a gerund.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. What about Jollof rice?
Oh yeah, Jollof rice.
I love rice.
No, oh my goodness.
No, what is Jollof rice?
It's a West African dish that is made with rice and tomatoes, and then everything else besides like rice, tomatoes, onions is up for debate depending on which country you're making it in.
Yeah, I think it varies a great deal depending on where you are.
There are literal fights about this. Like, people have gotten into fist fights about this, about whether you want yours to be like from Ghana or from Nigeria or from like any of the other nations. And then there's a version of it that's in South Carolina with the Gulagechi people too. But where your Jollof rice comes from could be a point of contention, but it's always delicious.
The word Jollof is hard when you're just hearing it if you're not familiar with it. How is it spelled?
Jollof.
It looks like jawl of rice.
Yeah.
Where does the word Jollof come from?
It is a spelling variant of Jollof, and it is used in a bunch of different West African states. But Wolof or Wolof, W-O-L-O-F, is a ethnic and linguistic name. Niger Congo language of Senegambia.
Yolof rice. I wonder where around here.
All of the nations around that little horn there have their own variations. So
Are there variations in Springfield that we can go try?
I don't know. I don't know where the African restaurants are here anymore. There was one in South Hadley. There was one in Amherst for a while, but now I don't know where any of them are.
Well, if you listener know where you can get Yolof rice around here, let us know at thefab413@nepm.org. Or if you're really mad about calling somebody chefy or about how all the world is a stage, you can let us know.
All of the world is an unpaid internship. Yeah, I guess
Doesn't
that's
it feel
right.
like that? Sometimes.
All right, here's another new one that was not featured in our press release or the article that you all saw. Have either of you had chicha before? This is not a food, but it is a drink.
No, I've had chicharrones, but I don't know what chicha is.
Do you, Khalees?
I think I have had this, but I'm not sure.
It's a South American and Central American beer made chiefly from fermented corn.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah, I have
chicha.
had this.
Okay, all right. Yeah, chicha beer. Yeah.
That
Again,
sounds
I
good.
have not. I should try to expand my culinary experiences to match the new words that we put into the dictionary. That would be a good challenge to all the lexicographers. Yes.
There are lots of gems of cool markets all over the place, but two that are right near each other that I can think of are Trans World Market on Route 9 in Hadley, and then right across the street there is a market that you might be able to buy chicha, and I can't remember what the name of it is, like Tres Hermanos or something like that.
Yeah, and they have tacos de lengua, which is my favorite.
Yeah, I have a lengua that I have to put into a crock pot.
Really?
Yeah, nobody wants to cook it in my house but me. And I'm like, we're not getting rid of this. We're crock-potting this.
Okay.
A lengua is a tongue, and it is gross looking, but I'm sure it's delicious.
It is
love
delicious.
lengua
Don't forget to
tacos.
peel it.
Okay, now I just made it grosser.
I mean, well, you don't anyway.
Other fun food words. Emily Brewster, resident wordster from Merriam-Webster. If people aren't quietly gagging.
Have either of you ever eaten a Rachel? This is it's a food. It's not a
Yes.
It's a food. Yes, you
It's
have.
a variation on the Reuben.
It is. Yes.
Rachel and Reuben. So
a Rachel is a grilled sandwich of Swiss cheese, coleslaw, and usually turkey, often on rye bread.
do we know which Rachel this was named after?
No, we do not. Well, there's a children's song, Reuben and Rachel, that is probably the source.
And where's the Reuben name come from?
Well, from the song. It's Reuben and Rachel, Monty.
So both sandwiches come from this one song?
Probably.
There is a guy, Reuben Kulikovsky. That's where the Reuben sandwich came from.
Was he like a chef inventor of the sandwich?
No, he is actually described as an American grocer. Maybe he had a deli counter in his grocery store.
He was a genius.
Yeah.
He was a
It's a good
genius.
sandwich.
Reuben is a very good sandwich.
Although nobody ever gives me as much sauerkraut as I want on it. I really just want a sauerkraut and cheese sandwich, and whatever protein is there is along for the ride.
So wait, differentiate. What's the little bit of difference between the Reuben and the Rachel then?
A Rachel's got coleslaw instead of kraut.
Oh,
basically.
okay. Okay. Yeah, that sounds like
and
it's
usually
good.
has turkey instead of corned beef.
Right. Or pastrami.
Yes.
Isn't a Reuben also kind of classic with pastrami?
It's better with pastrami. Yes.
I love pastrami.
I know.
I'm hungry.
We did this to
Okay, I have
ourselves.
another word for you that will cure your hunger entirely, especially as we are talking about smash burgers and pastrami and corned beef. This word, it'll be very clear why we didn't choose to publicize this one because it's really gross. The term is meat sweats.
I've been using this word for over a decade.
Same.
I'm so glad that this has gotten into the dictionary.
Same. I feel like meat sweats and itis are always in the same breath.
I don't know the itis part of it, but
Oh, well, that's not in the dictionary yet. We'll just keep that to ourselves.
let's hear what meat sweats is according to Merriam-Webster.
All right, and I am very curious about the items. An increase in perspiration after consuming excessive quantities of meat.
Is it a real thing?
Yes.
I don't know if it's scientifically provable, but it definitely feels like a thing that's happened to me and my friends
Yes.
many times over the years.
Yes.
The term dates to 2003, I think. Yeah. Apparently, there's a diet-induced process, thermogenesis, where your internal body temperature is increased due to an increase in metabolic activity.
So it's like a workout. I should feel good about the meat sweats whenever I get them. It'll be like I went to the gym.
Well, no, except that it's not really. I don't know that it really does this. This again is not.
You're not a
Not
scientist.
the dictionary's job. No,
You're a
no,
linguist.
not a scientist.
You better do an experiment to see if the meat sweats are really. We'll do it here in the studio.
I don't know how that applies to language.
Well, apparently the thermic effect of digestion is not so strong that this is something that.
Well, feels like I've had it.
Yeah,
Could be
for sure.
psychosomatic or whatever, but yeah.
But we're not tracking whether it's real or not. We're just tracking whether or not the language gets used and people use it.
That's right.
Yeah,
So,
and I've been using
Yeah.
that one for a very long time.
Indeed.
Glad it's in the dictionary. Are you going to tell us what itis is?
it's the condition of getting sleepy after you've eaten too much food.
And you call it itis?
It's the itis. This is a term that's been used at least in AAV for a while, but if you want to look at the first time I think it gets really codified, it's in the Boondocks.
Oh.
There's an episode where Grandpa is given money to open a restaurant, and he calls it the itis.
Tonight is pork reduced sushi. Hold on to your wasabi as we take you to a super exclusive grand opening of the itis. How many in your party?
Just us.
And how long of a nap will you be taking?
Well, we were thinking maybe 45 minutes.
That's just great. Head on in.
Instead of having tables, they just have like beds that they bring the food to because people just pass out after eating.
You get the meat sweats, and then you get the itis. Is that one in the dictionary yet, Emily Brewster?
No, and itis. I mean, itis has a life already as a suffix, right?
Yes.
That means inflammation or disease. I have some mixed feelings about this other itis.
We would just call it a tryptophan nap, usually after turkey, usually after Thanksgiving.
Right. Turkey famously does it to people, as does milk, right? Milk is also supposed to make you go to sleep.
Oh.
There are always food terms that are entering the language. It's one of the it's a constant source of a constant font of new words because people are inventing new things like smash burgers, right? It's just like a new method of preparing something that people have been eating for a very long time. And then also we English speakers become aware of culinary practices and dishes that are prepared in parts of the world where English is not spoken. And then we adopt them as our own and eat the things they refer to.
Well, if you know where Yolof rice is in the 413, that we can get it at a restaurant, that would be fun to let
and
us know.
We're not picky about the nation because we're just really excited to have the opportunity to eat it. I mean, I'm especially excited about the opportunity to eat it where I don't have to make it.
And if you are excited about or mad about any of the new words, you can email thefab413@nepm.org, and we'll talk about your conundrum with the word nerd next week. We've got more new words to talk about as well. This is a huge list.
Yeah.
Thank you, Emily Brewster.
Thank you, Monty and Khalees.
Cool.
Let's see where we can find some empings.
Yeah, no, I bet your Trans World Market has them.
I bet they do.
Up next, we're joined by artistic director of the New England Repertory Orchestra, who has a cautionary tale about the itis as well. Maestro Cailin Marcel-Manson.
We have so much fun here. You're listening to the Fabulous 413 on 88.5 NEPM.
Welcome back to the Fabulous 413. I'm Monty Belmonte.
And I'm Khalees Smith. Nero, the New England Repertory Orchestra, returns to the Shea Theater in Great Falls this Friday for its season opener.
Full of drama, humor, and energy, this performance features Nero guest artist violinist Thomas Cooper in his own edition of the Violin Concerto in A Major of Joseph. Do you say Bologna?
Oh my God.
Bologna. Chevalier de Saint-Georges, Felix Mendelssohn's Overture, Ludwig von Beethoven. I'm not even going to pretend to read German. I just skipped it. Forget it. Ludwig von Beethoven, Beethoven, Symphony Number 4.
Beethoven.
We have gone off the rails, listener. During the Word Nerd segment, which was pre-recorded, we have been talking about everything from the itis to pouring V8 over oneself in the movie Ninja 3. Yes. Continue with artistic director of Nero, Cailin Marcel-Manson, but continue the intro.
Yeah. Joining us through all of that, this wonderful human being, the maestro of Nero's Springfield's own Cailin Marcel-Manson. Cailin is a baritone and a conductor, a Philadelphia native who has toured as a soloist and master teacher at major concert venues throughout the United States and colleges besides Europe, Asia, and many organizations. He's been a guest cantor and soloist at some of the world's most famous churches and cathedrals, including Notre Dame.
The one in France, not the college. Cailin is currently Associate Professor of Practice in Music and Director of Music Performance at Clark University, the Music Director of the Keene Chorale in New Hampshire, Music Director of the Barn Opera in Vermont, Choral Conductor at Walnut Hill School for the Arts, Artistic Consultant for Mid-America Productions and Mid-Am International, and Artistic Director and Chief Executive Officer of the New England Repertory Orchestra, whose season opens this Friday at the Shea. Welcome back to the Fabulous 413, Cailin. It is always a delight when you are here.
Seriously.
Thank you so much. Glad to be back.
So I know we're going to talk about your season, but
Yes.
you just got back from touring Europe this summer.
Yes.
Let's talk a little bit about how your trip went.
Oh,
And touring as a conductor or a performer?
actually both. So I was over there for this program called Opera al Mare, Opera by the Sea. That's a project of Barn Opera as well as Opera Vermont there that welcomes young singers to study Italian opera in a rather immersive way. So we actually have an Italian professor from Middlebury College, Sandra Carletti, who gives daily Italian classes to the students, and actually was really wonderful about where we were is that we actually are in Cesenatico, which is on the Adriatic coast. It's on the Romagna Riviera. So we really didn't hear much English spoken at all because that's where the Italians go to vacation. So if there were tourists, they were German or Dutch. So we didn't really. So and I have to tell you. So last summer, this past two summers ago, I had actually spent my first extended period of time in Istanbul. I was there for basically a better part of 2 weeks. So I flew to Italy via Istanbul with my husband, and so I got to share some of that with him, and it was really, really intense. It was the first time, I think, in a very long time that I'd been away from home for 5 straight weeks. You know, for those many of us performing artists that travel internationally, you get used to being away from home for months at a time, especially in opera productions. Mm-hmm. But, you know, recently I would say maybe in the last 10 to 15 years of my career, most of my work has been concert work. So if I've had to travel internationally, you're gone for a week and you're back. You're gone for 2 weeks and back, not for 5. Mm-hmm. And, you know, I missed my bed a great deal. I missed my dogs, but we have a wonderful neighbor, Lisa. Lisa, we love you, that watched our 2 babies for us. And we just had an amazing time. And I have to say, I was quite a bit unnerved. I was annoyed, can I tell you, when after being in Cesenatico for 3.5 weeks, and then coming back to Florence in July in the height of tourist season, and you enter a restaurant and you get that look from, oh, you're not from around here. And then they default to English. And I'm like, I've been speaking Italian for 3 weeks. I'm in Florence. Why am I speaking English right now? So it is one of those things. I was very glad to be back in Springfield.
I bet if you went to Florence, Northampton, then started to speak Italian, you'd have the exact opposite sort of reaction.
Well, and my students do get these things where I just taught a masterclass for emerging artists at Clark, so young professional singers, and they were singing Italian, they were singing Italian arias and German art song and German arias, and it's just part of my wiring. So when we're talking about text, I start speaking in German to them, and one of them was a Fulbright. Was a Fulbright scholar, so she understood. But the students were like, here he goes again. Do you mind translating what you just said?
Polyglot showing off in front of the orchestra.
I mean, that's just what happens when you do opera. You have to take in all of the languages.
Yeah. And it gets into you. I mean, I think there is that. What I really do appreciate. I've seen people talk about studying abroad. It's different. It's still different than when you're living there. And I spent, 2 to 3 years of my life over there, and then dotting back and forth between the U.S. and Europe for a long time. And there's that inflection point where you stop thinking as for a while you think in translation. So you think okay, you're hearing them and you're translating it to English, and then you have to translate to German or whatever. And so you get that inflection point where you actually start thinking like a German, you start thinking in Italian first. And I had that. So when it was disrupted while I was still in Italy, I was mad. I was like, I just got here. I just got there.
That's
so
valid.
close.
So valid.
We're speaking with Cailin Marcel-Manson, who's now back here in Western Massachusetts, making his home in Springfield, back with his husband and dogs in his bed.
Yes.
In Springfield, and is the maestro of Nero, the New England Repertory Orchestra, which will open its 2023-24 season at the Shea. Again, full disclosure, president of the board of the Shea, make $0 off of it, but love to welcome this orchestra, not only because of the mix of music and musicians, but because of the mission of the orchestra. And if people missed you on another time you were on the show, remind us what the mission of Nero as an orchestra is.
Well, our mission is really twofold. Our mission is the primary goal of Nero is, it says it on the website, but I'll say it because it feels good to say, is to dismantle the exclusivity of symphonic music as an art form. It's just part of our culture. We have perceptions and connotations around what we think classical music or symphonic music is supposed to be. And we are trying to there's certain things that are nice about it. It's nice to get dressed up.
You are
It's
always
just
dressed
there,
up. You look fantastic right now.
You cannot see. For those of you who are listening, I am wearing chocolate brown. I have this fleur-de-lis design on, and I've got blue, and I've got this lovely vintage blue brooch on.
And
I'm
matching blue boots.
Yes,
Oh,
yes.
yeah.
I'm known for boots and a brooch.
Always.
So if you want to think, you think Cailin Marcel-Manson, think boots and brooch. But just the ability to flow the way we are in conversation. I feel that, everyone says music is a universal language, but when they enter into, I like to call them temples of culture, that way of being, somehow something stops about that. It has to be contained. It has to be packaged in a certain way. And when you really do think about the people, even the people, the Beethovens, the Mahlers, the Mozarts, when they were doing the bulk of their work, whether it was under the patronage system or not, they were all railing against that in their own way too. Beethoven was writing the music he wanted to write. Mozart was writing music on commission, and some of the stuff that we love, he was writing for his friends and for the people to enjoy in their own way. So it's always been part of the spirit of this music to be open to everybody and for everyone to access it and to have a part in it. But I feel that culturally it's not that we've lost that, we've lost touch with it. And so Nero's endeavoring to bring that to the forefront, not just to say it, but to do it. And the second part of that is that we also recognize that people of color have always been gifted at this, and yet have had a very difficult way of making this a reality in their lives, whether it's professionally or even avocationally. And Nero's about making sure that there's a place for that too.
I love the triple entendre that it is the New England Repertory Orchestra, that Nero means black, and that it's going to burn it all down.
Hey, look, we turned into that. I mean, I have to say, I'm literally. I mean, I'll tell. I mean, we talk about, like, is no full disclosure, right? But even we finally landed on the name. I was like, oh yes, Nero, he's black. Yes. And then we're talking, and then we go over the graphic designs for the logo, and they're like, oh, there's a violin. So literally, one of our principal bassists was like, wait a minute, now if it's Nero and his violin, shouldn't it be on fire? Did it have flames? And we're like, wait a minute, let me ask. And literally, they're like, wait a minute, the graphic designer got back to us, let's look at this, and they're like, yes!
It's perfect. It works so well. The opening of the 2023 season is this Friday at the Shea in Turner's Falls. And we are very excited to welcome you back there as a board member and as a patron of the arts and a big fan of the work that you do. Cailin Marcel-Manson, the maestro of Nero Orchestra. Thank you so much.
Oh, am I? Oh, okay.
Yeah, I mean, like we only got a minute left,
Yeah,
so
it's
if we ask him
fine.
another question, it's
I
just
know,
going to be
it's
awkward.
just going to be that. We'll just talk more when we're done.
About
But
the weird
instead,
stuff
for
we were
everybody-
talking about before.
Everybody else, we'll find out what we're doing on Thursday. Thursday on the Fabulous 413, only one community college in the whole Commonwealth has a Latinx Studies program, and it's right here in Hampden County.
And we will sit with Professor Raul Gutierrez and a couple of his current students and find out how this department at HCC has grown over its 6 years and where they're going to see it going.
We'll talk to the folks behind Transformed at Amherst Cinemas, centering trans storytelling and filmmaking.
And we're betting that Representative Jim McGovern may have some words about the removal of Kevin McCarthy as Speaker of the House this week. So if you have got a procedural or otherwise question about what has been going down in the House of Representatives this week, you can email it to us at thefab413@nepm.org, and we will ask it tomorrow on your behalf.
Turns out it's real weird how you become Speaker of the House, actually.
And that you don't even need to be in the House to be Speaker, it
Oh my
seems.
gosh. Yeah. I'm Khalees Smith.
And I'm Monty Belmonte.
We'll see you tomorrow on the Fabulous 413.